Alright, we're ready to degas. The valve is closed. And we'll just turn on the pump. And we're going to use this valve to control the batch and keep it from bubbling up and over and out. So you'll watch it kind of do its thing here. Keep my hand steady. Watch the pressure of the vacuum come up. Notice the batch rise, and I'll let some atmosphere back in. And it collapses back down. Comes up again. And I'll let a little atmosphere back in. And we'll do this until it doesn't nearly come up as high, basically. And what we're doing is bringing bubbles up to the surface and then crushing this batch and popping them out. And now, without letting atmosphere back in, it's collapsing on its own. So it would rise higher, and I had to crush it. Then it rose again, and I crushed it, and it rose, and it doesn't quite get out of the batch, out of the bucket, and now you can see it's hanging out. Some people with tryptophobia may be a little grossed out, but it just kind of does this thing now. And if I let atmosphere back in, it'll crush those bubbles again. I'm not sure, but I don't think it will ever get to a point where it's just glassy smooth. You just have to make a call. Now, because it's not rising anymore, I'm just going to let it just do its thing a couple more times. Notice when I let the atmospheric pressure back in, it takes a little bit for the vacuum to climb back out, and I'm letting it all back in now. And I shut the machine off, and the top will come right back off again. No problem. And this actually will sit down fairly flat. So we've got some surface bubbles, but that'll be okay. And basically now, it's a matter of getting it into our jacket. And I've got this at an angle. It could lie flat and it would rise, but if you can picture that level in there, having a lot of surface area, and all that surface area as the batch rises will reach the top surface of this jacket in a very short amount of time. It'll reach it almost simultaneously, and that could trap air in and around underneath the surface here. So I've taken the time to set it up at an angle so that I'm sure more like a guillotine blade has an angle to it. The slice, it's basically slicing. It's moving along and constantly slicing that air in a way that causes it to leave through this here. And then we may even tip it the other way or set it flat once it's at a certain point to finish filling. All being in an effort to limit how many bubbles form. I also may drill through in the corners to make sure that that air is coming out as this material goes in. But really now it's just a matter of pouring the batch into the hole. And if you can, it's nice to make a thin stream. This is called high pouring. You can be really high, and in more ways than one, but you could be high up by standing on the counter and putting your mold on the floor so that long stretches of the stream are exposed to time in the air. What happens here is surface tension fails. The stream, what's the word I want? The physical qualities of the stream have changed the relationship to surface tension, and surface tension no longer will support air bubbles. So if there are any left, they can tear out of this thin stream on their way to the mold. And if you don't have a degassing chamber, this can be an effective way to get rid of a lot of air just in a high pour. You can save yourself a lot of expense doing a lot of projects without a degassing chamber. It doesn't hurt to combine the methods, though. So since this is becoming difficult for me to hold probably 6 or 8 pounds of rubber in the air with my one hand and roll a camera, we're going to, through movie magic, we're going to limit how much more of this you see, and we're going to come back when it's almost complete.